Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas. Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados.
Because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Nathan.
Welcome to episode 26 of Adventures and Mousecapades. Today, we are talking about tips to beat the heat in Seattle when it gets above a scorching 75 degrees.
Oh, it's unbearable out here when it gets that hot.
It's horrible.
It's just, it's been really interesting this week and watching our friends in other areas of the country going like, oh yeah, it's 103 here today. And we're like, man, it's 72. I don't know what we're going to do.
It's so hot.
It's so hot.
We're just not used to it up here in the Pacific Northwest. It's usually nicely temperate and sometimes overcast. And
yeah. The National Weather Service literally put out an extreme heat warning because it was going to get into the mid 80s here.
Yep.
So
we're in a different world.
Indeed we are. We are not in Kansas.
Not in Kansas.
Not in Kansas.
Actually, today we are going to be giving some Disney Cruise Line tips and tricks. I know there are a lot of people out there that are first-time cruisers, and we just want to share some of the things that we have learned and how to make the most out of your cruise.
Yeah, absolutely. We're in a bunch of message boards and things like that about Disney cruising, and these are some of the questions that we frequently see asked on the boards, and so... and I know we had a lot of these same questions too when we were learning the ropes as young lads and laddises. A while ago. Yeah, just go with it.
Okay.
All right. Anyhow, hopefully these tips can help you out as you look to take your first Disney cruise.
And this is not the full list by any means.
No.
There are always so many questions, and there are great resources out there. We're just trying to help a little bit in any way that we can.
Absolutely. So I think the first question that we should tackle is one that everybody gets very kind of confused on, and that is, when can you book your activities on board?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's all sorts of booking windows. So what does that mean? When can I, as a first cruiser, schedule activities that I can do on board?
Yes. So first thing to remember is you cannot book any activities until your booking window opens and after you have paid for the cruise in full. You cannot do any booking until you've paid for everything.
Okay. And both of those two things have to be true. You have to be paid in full, and you have to be past your booking window.
Yes.
So there is a paid in full date, which is so many weeks ahead of your cruise.
It's changed quite a bit now, and Disney changes dates all the time. So the best thing to figure out is with Disney when your paid in full date actually is.
Got it.
I think right now you can pay in full after the booking windows open.
Okay. But you couldn't book anything unless you're paid in full.
Correct.
You have actually paid in full.
Yes.
This, as you know, we always throw in a little plug and at the end of our podcast episodes. This is where a travel agent can help you out tremendously to figure all this stuff out, to navigate, if you will, Disney cruising.
Now, booking windows, once you have paid in full, booking window is going to depend on how many cruises you have had with Disney. If this is your first time ever cruising with Disney, your booking window is going to open 75 days before your sail date. If you've been on 1 to 5 Disney cruises, your booking date is 90 days.
Right. And that means that you're an existing Castaway Club member. Mm-hmm. And you have achieved silver status. After you've sailed your first cruise up through your 5th cruise, you are Castaway Silver.
Castaway Gold is cruises 6 through 10. And those booking window dates are 105 days.
Yes, which is still me.
That's okay. I've got you covered, hon.
Yeah.
Platinum is cruises 11 and above, and that booking window is 120 days out.
Right. Again, just to make sure we're all on the same page, you still have to have paid for your cruise in full
Yes. Yeah.
before you can book anything.
Yeah.
So those two things have to be true. Paid in full and you reach this window.
Yeah. And there is one other booking window that's a little different, and that is if you are sailing concierge. If you're sailing concierge, you have your own separate booking window no matter what your castaway status is. That is 120 days as well.
Actually, your booking window with concierge is 130 or 135 days out. Like you can submit your requests.
Yes, you can't do anything online. You can submit them in email.
Right. But they're not solidified until the platinum booking window opens up at 120 days. That's when everything is released.
Yeah, if you want to book online, if you're concierge, you have to wait till 120 days out. Or you can email the concierge team ahead of time. And they'll send out an email ahead of time you'll get an email from a shoreside concierge, and
Right.
they will let you know how it all works. Your activity booking window will open up on your specific date at midnight Eastern time. So it's nice if you happen to be on the West Coast because it's 9 o'clock. You don't have to stay up super late.
Indeed.
And you can go online and just put all your requests in. I would recommend getting online as soon as you can to book activities as things go very quickly. And we should probably go over what you can book online ahead of time.
Yeah. So, Alicia, what can you book online?
There's a bunch of different categories that you can book. They're called onboard fun categories, dining categories, spa and fitness, port adventures, and nursery. Now, when you go online to your reservation, you can select specific days, and then it'll give you an option. Do you want to do, what category do you want to do? So for onboard fun, some of the main ones are you can do photo packages, portrait studio packages, beverage tastings, bippity boppity boutique, some different character experiences, and some character food experiences as well. And some of these cost and some of them do not. For the photo package, I've noticed that you cannot do it on day one of your activity. You have to do it on at least day 2 or later. And there's different types of photo packages that you can get. We have a tendency to get the unlimited package, which includes all photos that are taken. You can also do like a package of 10 photos or a package of 15 photos, but I don't know. I think it's a much better use of your funds to do an unlimited package. There's so many different opportunities to take pictures on board. They have photographers all over the place. I believe they're actually out roaming on the decks now and everything too. And they'll have backdrops of different scenes where you can get pictures taken with your family or yourself. And then character photos too.
Now, Alicia, do you have to book that photo package for each day?
No.
That sounds new. You used to be completely separate to book the photo package.
Yes.
So
It did used to be separate. Disney used to have an outside vendor doing their photos, and they are not anymore. You just need to pick basically any day on the cruise, and it is valid for the entire duration of your cruise.
got it. Okay.
For some reason, the way it works online right now is you just can't add it on day one. I don't know, some odd glitch with their system.
Sure. Reasons. We've talked before about how amazingly awesome Disney's computer systems are. So chalk this up as another one of those.
So there's the photo package. You could also do photo, like a studio session, which is just in their on-ship photo studio where you go in and do a nice little photo session. We've done that as well. And it's nice. It's quite expensive because you're doing a professional photography session. And I think we get more out of just the regular photo package.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you could still dress up and get really good photos
Right. They have them before almost every night at dinner. I think there's either character photos or just different backdrops or different areas on the ship. So
Yeah.
especially if you want to like before formal night and things like that, go take a prom photo with your family and have that to cherish forever and ever on social media.
It's also really nice during holidays. There's
Very
good,
true.
because you have the Christmas tree and other stuff there, and you can get good family photos there.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you can book is beverage tastings, and there are so many different types of beverage tastings.
Indeed.
And Disney has upped their price, so it ranges anywhere from $40 to $100 based on what kind of tasting you're doing.
And these prices, these increases were significant.
Yes,
I think most of them used to be like 25, maybe $30.
Yep.
Now, like you can do beer and mixology. Those are separate things.
Yes.
So you could do a beer tasting, a mixology class. Those are $40. For 45, there's a rum tasting, there's a wine tasting, whiskey, bourbon, and martini. Another $5 at $50 level. And I feel like this is a NPR pledge drive. For $50, you can get champagne, cognac, or the world of gin.
Yes.
And then at the $100 pledge level, per person again, you can experience the reserve whiskey bourbon or the world of old fashioned tasting session, which
Yes.
I'm very much looking forward to the old fashioned session here in a couple months.
I will be attending that, and I will, even though I'm not a huge old-fashioned drinker, I'm still going to try it out. But yeah, I was shocked at these prices. Honestly, this went up, as you said, considerably from what it has been before.
Now, some of these are brand new. I don't remember some of these, especially like I don't remember a bourbon tasting. The world of old fashioned one is new. I'm excited for those. I'm excited to drink your portion that you don't have.
I'll have a little sip.
Yeah. But yeah, this is getting real expensive.
Yeah. And I'm fairly certain there are other ones that I don't have on here. Like, I'm pretty sure we have a chocolate and liquor tasting. I just don't have the prices listed.
Yes. Oh, that's one of our favorites.
Yes, that is one of our favorites.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Other things you can also book are the Bibbidi Boppity Boutique. If you want to have your son or daughter go in and get basically a Disney makeover, there's different types available. There's like a princess package, there's a pirate package, and a prince package. And that ranges in cost as well, depending on the package you get. We did that with Caitlin in the Disney parks at one time.
At Disney World.
Yeah, and it was expensive.
Yeah.
It was like $400.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap.
But she got photos. She got all made up. She got a dress.
Yeah, it was pretty
hairstyle.
awesome.
It was fun.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. There's also something called Disney's Royal Gathering, which is a booked character experience. There's no cost involved for this one, but it's like just booking a time to see characters. I believe it's like all the princesses in a row or something like that. They also have it for like meeting Anna and Elsa and a couple of other ones as well. It's going to differ based on what ship you're on.
Right, in the itinerary. Like the longer itineraries are going to have more of these things happening.
Yeah. And some of these may not be available right when your booking window opens. I noticed when I looked online that they had a different booking date for some of the character ones. Like I believe we're sailing in August and the Royal Gathering isn't available until like July 16th to book.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the Wish has something called Olaf's Royal Picnic. And it's quite expensive. It's $220 per person for the kids.
That's insane.
Kids. I think the adult price is $68 or something. And adults cannot attend without a child.
So it's like Legoland.
Yeah. Something like that. You can also book ahead of time dining for the adult-only restaurants. So Palo, Remy, Enchanté, those restaurants. You can do dinner bookings. You can do brunch bookings. Some of them have a dessert option as well.
Right. Now, if you listen to our DCL overview podcast episode, you may remember that there's rotational dining. So there's 3 main restaurants that you have access to that you rotate through. That's why it's called rotational dining. Yep. So you do not need to make specific reservations for those. Then those are included in in your fare, in the cost of your cruise. The reservations we're talking about here are for above and beyond restaurants that are for adults only. You have to be 18 and up, if I remember correctly. And so these are separate experiences. They're really fantastic experiences, but you do need to book them.
And they are additional cost.
Yes.
Yep. You can also book spa and fitness items, as well as port adventures and nursery time when your booking window opens.
So the nursery, this is just kids, younger kids, like real littles, up to like 2, maybe 3, basically kids who aren't potty trained, who need extra care and attention. This is not the kids clubs. This is stuff that you have to pay for, correct?
Correct. This is not the kids club. It is an additional fee, hourly fee, I believe, and you do have to book with them ahead of time.
Okay. There's registration for the kids clubs, but that's just like a one-time registration, and then they can come and go into the kids clubs. Nursery, you have to book specific windows. Correct. This all changed a lot during COVID, because during the first sailings, actually up until not too long ago, you still had to reserve times for the kids clubs as well. That's all gone back to quote unquote normal at this point. And kids clubs are come and go. Obviously you have the option to check your kids in and out. It's not come and go for the kids. That would be insane.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And actually you can start doing the registering kids and youth clubs during online check-in, which is different from your activity booking window. Online check-in starts 30 days prior to sail, and there's a bunch of things that happen during that time.
What happens during check-in time?
During online check-in, you will pick your port arrival time, fill out any cruise documents that you need to fill out, register your kids for youth clubs, and also set up COVID testing and vaccination verification. And for that, I highly recommend you go to the Disney Cruise Line website itself, because information is always changing on what needs to be done.
Yes, check in there early and often.
Yes.
Because it does change.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're in the middle of having to pay attention to as well. If you listened last week, Alicia caught the plague. Mm-hmm. She's doing much better. We are still recording from opposite ends of the house.
Yes.
Over the magic of Zoom. But it sounds pretty good because it doesn't have to go over to the internet. Mm-hmm. It's just here on our home network. But yeah, I haven't seen her in person in a week and a half. I miss you.
We've peeked through the door.
Yes, Hello. That's right. Anywho, so yeah, COVID testing and all the rest of that stuff is an ever-changing pot of fun. Mm-hmm. Just check their website for whatever is the latest. Again, this is where a travel agent who is familiar with Disney cruising, who has lots of families going through the DCL process, is probably much more up to speed and well-versed with what's going on than you are trying to read tea leaves. So don't hesitate to leverage that travel agent if you have one.
Yeah. Some of the other things that you can do before you cruise is set up transportation to and from the port. So you have a way to get to the ship. Disney offers transfers as well, or you can just get there a different way. It's up to you.
Right. This is the Mickey bus.
Yes.
And it's
Mickey bus.
It's not too expensive. I'm of course now forgetting off the top of my head how much it is per person one way.
It's like $35 per person.
Something in that neighborhood. Yeah.
We also recommend that you arrive a day early for your cruise. Do not show up or do not do an early morning flight for the day that you're leaving. Schedules change, weather can be horrid and cancel flights. It's just, I don't know, much better for your peace of mind if you are there a day ahead of time.
Especially this year, like travel is just a nightmare right now. We have not enough pilots, not enough cabin crew, not enough, people at the gate agents, like TSA screening, bag handle, travel is incredibly complicated and difficult right now, as the economy bounces back from the pandemic. So give yourself that padding of getting to Florida or wherever you're departing from. Maybe it's San Diego or Vancouver, BC, or maybe you're enjoying a Mediterranean cruise. Get there to your embarkation port, or at least into that area, a day early.
Yeah.
And that's where the transportation to and from can help. It's a great opportunity to spend some time in the parks. The bus can take you right from your resort down to the ship. You can also get the bus from the airport in Orlando. So maybe you stay there at the Hyatt Regency that's in the airport. Lots of different options.
Yes. Yep. You also have the option to prepay your tips for the Disney Cruise Line. Some people like to prepay their tips. Some like to add on once they are on the ship. We usually add on to the tips, just based on how the servers are, how the room hosts are.
Yep. And then our other big tip in terms of kind of planning for your cruise is leave room in your suitcase.
Yeah.
You are going to get some stuff.
Yeah.
And so make sure you have room to bring that home, and or be prepared to buy a suitcase in one of the merch shops.
We've never done that.
We've done that twice, I think.
Twice, yeah.
Well, you got to put all your tequila somewhere.
So, yeah, something like that. There's also, you can also join Facebook groups that have to do with your specific cruise. They're easy to look up. You just look up your ship name and date of sail.
Yep.
And Facebook groups are great because they can answer a lot of questions. You can get to know people ahead of time who are going to be on the cruise. Sometimes people will set up something called fish extenders, which is basically just little tiny gift giving to other people on the cruise, like dollar store gifts. Some people will go all out on the fish extender gifts. Some people will just do little like magnets or something like that. As Nathan takes a drink from one of his gifts from a fish extender,
a very nice thermos. That I use as my regular water bottle that somebody put a DCL logo on. So,
yes.
Yeah,
we've received some amazing gifts from the fish extenders, and you can learn all about those on Facebook groups. There's a forum that I go to every once in a while. It's the Diz boards that have all sorts of threads and conversations about information of that.
Absolutely. And if you're not familiar with Disney Cruise Line, or you're not familiar with cruising in general, highly recommend joining your cruises group on Facebook. Even if you don't do a ton of stuff on Facebook, it's still a fantastic way to find that community and get plugged in. There's always seems like there's always people who are vets of Disney cruising that are helping to lead those groups, that everybody's going to be on that cruise, and you get a chance to, I think on one of our cruises, like there's pen pal groups set up for all the kids, and people are starting to plan itineraries and shore excursions together, and there's icebreaker things and getting to know the community. There's all sorts of cool stuff that can go on those Facebook groups, and it's just a forum to ask questions like, hey, what do I do with X, Y, or Z, as people find out like what the itinerary details are going to be, like what night is pirate night going to be, and things like that. A lot of that stuff you'll be able to see on the Facebook groups. Yep.
For embarkation day, this first tip I have has changed quite a bit.
Yes.
First tip, do not arrive early for your port arrival time. They will turn you away now.
Yes.
And say, come back when it's your actual time. This did not used to be the case. You used to be able to show up early to see if there were like room upgrades available.
Yes,
But-
which we've done, but you
Yes.
can't do that. Well, you can't do that right now. We'll see if that changes
Yeah.
when, COVID things go
Yeah.
away more. But
Because of all the testing that they have to do now,
Yeah.
they want to make sure that they have everything lined up correctly. They don't have an influx of people or anything like that.
Yep. So that port arrival time that you choose is important to know and important to stick to.
Yes.
Now, if you are doing Disney transportation, like on the bus with the cruise, you will be given that port arrival time. Like,
Yes.
they're not doing 6 runs from the Grand Floridian down to the port. They're just doing one, and everybody on the bus gets that one.
Yeah. Yes, and I believe when you do online check-in, if you have Disney transportation set, it gives you a different message.
The service will walk you through
Yes.
whatever you've got set up.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
You can also bring on board either a 6-pack of beer or 2 bottles of wine per person.
Per port.
Per port. Yes, but
Yes.
when you're embarking. And these have to be in your carry-on. They cannot be packed in your suitcase.
Right. You can also bring in bottled water if you want to. There's interestingly enough, on one of the Facebook groups for Disney cruising, people were talking about bringing on like a 24 case of bottled water in a little collapsible, like wheelie cart. And they're like, yeah, that's totally fine. You just have to lug it around until your room's available.
Yep.
But, so I guess that's the other thing is you will potentially be able to get on board with your port arrival time and check in and all the rest of that stuff before your room is available. Rooms don't open up until 1 p.m. or after or so. And so there will be some time for you to go enjoy the public areas of the ship, but the rooms are still being turned around by the stateroom hosts. And obviously please respect their time to make sure that room is cleaned and ready for your arrival.
Yes. And cabanas will be open for lunch, or I don't think they have cabanas on the Wish. So whatever it is on the Wish. The buffet areas will be open for lunch. And there's also, I believe they have one of the rotational dining restaurants
Yep.
will also be open for lunch on embarkation day.
Indeed. And if your first cruise happens to be on concierge, congratulations. And there is typically a concierge lunch that is available at one of the restaurants as well.
Yep.
And you'll get all that stuff in email from concierge.
Yeah. And one of the nice things during embarkation day is a lot of things are open for you to just look around, look at. Like the kids clubs have an open house that you can check out. They also have that same evening, basically an icebreaker for the kids. And I don't think we've sent our kids to this before in the past. It was a tip that I heard earlier this week to make sure your kids go to the icebreaker on the first night at the kids clubs, because
that would have been helpful.
yeah, this is where they meet other kids. This is where they can form bonds and get some fast friendships.
Right.
So we will definitely be highly suggesting this to our kiddos.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We love you, but go. Okay, so let's move on to my perhaps favorite area of experience on the ship. Let's talk about food.
Let's talk about food.
Yeah.
Food tips.
So tip number 1 is the beer mug. The beer mug is huge. It's very heavy. Basically, you buy in at, I forget, it's like $13 or $14 for your first beer mug.
And it's 21 ounces.
Right. It's a big pour. And then subsequently, you can get that refilled for a really healthy discount off. I think it's like $2 or $3 off of a refill.
It's a 16 ounce. Yeah, it's a 16 ounce price for a 21 ounce pour.
Right. And the pro tip here is when you're done for the day, you can turn in your beer mug, the physical mug, and to a server, and they will give you a little paper card that basically is a beer mug token.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to carry around the actual beer mug with you. Just make sure you check out and get the token when you're all done.
We did not know this until like
No.
the third or fourth cruise.
Yeah, so we have beer mugs here at our house because like we brought them home off our first cruise and then forgot to bring them back and got more. And yeah, and then you make friends with bartenders and other friends, and somehow like I have beer mug I probably have 5 or 6 beer mug tickets. I don't know how, but I just do.
The tokens. Yeah. Sometimes you just save them too instead of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just keep them around the house and you just say, hey,
bring them along
Alicia,
for
here's
the
a
next
beer mug
cruise.
ticket. Can you get me a beer out of the fridge? And she says, no, get it yourself.
Yep.
But that's just me. I'm
works.
projecting. I digress.
So you can do the beer mug, and it also works for cider too if you're not a beer drinker. Another tip is popcorn buckets. If you get a popcorn bucket, you can get a refill on that for considerably less money.
Excellent. Do you know if the popcorn buckets from the parks work with that?
I do not know.
Huh.
I know they sell specific ones on the cruise, although I don't know if you'd want to bring that's a pretty big item to pack.
That's fair. Those popcorn buckets aren't necessarily really meant to be used for popcorn. They're really just a quote unquote wink wink popcorn bucket.
Yes.
It's basically the adult version of a Happy Meal toy.
Yep.
That's what popcorn buckets are in Disney parks. Anywho,
There's also the drink of the day cup. So just like the beer mug, you have a cup for if you get the drink of the day, it's usually a plastic hurricane glass or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can get a refill on it for a reduced price. Same type of thing. There are also a couple of buffets that you guys should be aware of.
Yes.
First off is the Pirate Night buffet. This happens, strangely enough, on Pirate Night.
Whoa. Hold on. Let me write this down.
And it is after all the pirate shenanigans. They have a buffet in the cabana area.
Yeah, the cabanas. That
area,
restaurant.
yeah.
And they've got all sorts of stuff. Rachel, plug your ears. They have turkey legs.
Yep.
And they have like all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. There's usually some cool fruit carvings, watermelon carvings that are pirate related and stuff.
A smorgasbord of
Yes.
food.
They also have afternoon buffets in the club area, not the kids club area, like the adult club area, like in the pub, in the Cadillac Lounge or Keys or Ooh La La. I can't remember all the names of all the places, but they will have little bites and stuff to eat in the adult club areas in the afternoons.
Pro tip.
Yeah. And they're just like little things. Like I believe they had like corn dog nuggets one night or chicken fingers or stuff like that.
Cool.
There's also the Cove Cafe is the 18 and over coffee area, basically. Right. And they have treats that are available that are included in your cost. You don't have to pay extra for those. For the coffee that you buy there, you do have to pay extra.
Right.
But any of the treats that are in there, those are included. You don't have to pay for those.
Cool. And then you have sommelier bin.
Uh-huh.
Huh?
Yes, this is something I learned this week too. So sometimes when people go to the nicer restaurants, they will order glasses of wine and the bottle will not be finished. So the next day over at Meridian or the bar outside of the Remy and Palo area, or sometimes in the adult bar area by the pool, they will have something called the sommelier bin where you can get really nice wine for like $10.
Wow. All
and
right.
It's pretty much could be pretty much anything. You just have to check with the bartender there and have them tell you what they happen to have there.
I will be asking you about the sommelier bin. Good tip.
Yes. Should also note that the Cove Cafe has a coffee card, where if you have a tendency to get coffee every day from the Cove Cafe, make sure you get one of those cards. And if you fill it up, I think it's either 5 or 10 coffees, and you get a free one after that.
Got it. Cool.
You can pretty much get food anytime on the ship.
Yeah, that's the cool thing is those snack bars and things like that. All that stuff is available to you almost all the time.
Yeah,
it's included in the cost of your cruise. You've already paid. I'm not going to call this stuff free.
Yeah,
you've definitely paid for it.
Paid for it, yeah.
But it's available to you.
And there's always room service too. Room service is not an additional cost for the most part. There are some items that are additional cost, just depending on what you get. But you do want to tip your room service host.
Right.
Usually $1 per item that you're getting or something.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people like to order warm cookies and a carton of milk in the evening. So they have cookies and milk at night. You can also order a carafe of coffee in the evening, late in the evening, and it should still be warm in the morning.
If you happen to drink coffee.
If you happen to drink coffee, yeah.
Neither of us do, so
No.
couldn't tell you whether that works or not.
Yeah.
All right. So what are some other tips you may have here, Alicia?
Let's see. Other tips we have. There are laundry services on the ship. You can either do your own laundry or send it out.
Mm-hmm.
They have washers and dryers available on the ship. We have a tendency to overpack.
Yeah.
We try not to. we end up still doing laundry usually when we're on the longer cruises.
Yep.
But we still overpack. I think we always will.
Yeah.
There are so many free activities on board. There are trivias that you can take. There are animation classes that you can take. There's cooking classes, taologami, stuff like that. There's so many things that you can do on the ship. Oh, there's movies. I didn't list that on there, but there are movies you can watch.
Right. Disney, I don't know if you've heard, but Disney makes movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's movie theaters on the ship. And
Yes.
that's right. That's plural. So you can go watch first run movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, you happen to be on a cruise, and if, I don't know, like Rogue One comes out that night, you get to watch it on opening night in the middle of the ocean. And that was really cool.
We've seen 2, they call them premieres at sea.
Yes.
We saw Tangled and we saw Rogue One.
Yes. And Rogue One was amazing in that theater.
Yes.
up until K2SO died, and then
Yes,
I had a 4-year-old just melt down next to me.
That was poor kiddo. I mean, I was melting down. That was hard.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, spoiler alert.
Oopsie.
Rogue One doesn't turn out well for pretty much anybody.
Yeah, nobody.
You can find all this stuff out, what's going on board, via the Navigator app. Mm-hmm. That's Disney Cruise Line's own app that they have for your phone, for your iPhone, or for Android. The other cool thing, if you do have an iPhone, is obviously you want to turn off your cellular service, but use the ship's Wi-Fi, which is available pretty much everywhere. You may find some dead spots here or there, but
For the app.
for the app, for the Wi-Fi. But you can use iMessage these days on your phone, and it's just kind of like on some airline flights that you'll be able to still use iMessage these days. You can't, and this is for free, you can't send pictures. So you can send an emoji, but you can't send a picture.
No memes.
No memes. But you can text people on board the ship and at home via iMessage. So I'm sorry to the green bubbles out there on Android phones, but if you have an iPhone, blue bubbles of the world unite, and we can talk to each other.
Yeah, and you can also text through the DCL app. They do have their own messaging
Right. That
option through that.
predated the iMessage availability,
Yes.
was messaging inside of their
Yeah,
app.
and you can still do that. And each person has an individual number through the DCL app. So
Right.
if you make friends on the ship and want to text with them, you can do that through the app as well.
Right. Right. So if you do have an Android, you can still text back and forth with people on the ship using the DCL app,
Yeah.
using the Navigator app. If you have an iPhone, you can use your iPhone natively, and you can write, your parents back on shore and say how much fun you're having on the ship or something like that. Not that we'd ever do. I love you, Mom and Dad.
You should also check with your cellular provider about any international plans. Some of them have like cruise plans and everything too. Make sure you're not getting roaming charges or anything like that from being on a ship.
Yes, absolutely. And then I don't know that we have it on here, but just since we're kind of in this realm of technology, there is internet available on the ship. It is exceptionally expensive, and it's really slow and not super reliable. You're not going to stream Netflix. You're going to wait a while, and hopefully your email would download. If you're in a situation where you have to have connectivity for work, I can't say that Disney Cruise Line is the cruise line for you to be out in the middle of the ocean and expect to have good connectivity. I've heard there are some other cruise ships that have more modern systems and more robust bandwidth and stuff like that that's available. That's not what we've experienced on the 4 existing Disney ships. It'll be interesting to see if the Wish is any different. But it seems like every week or two, somebody in one of the Facebook cruising groups is asking, like, hey, my significant other needs to be able to do work calls and email and things like that every afternoon. Is this something I can still do on the ship? And the general answer is like, well,
not really.
Maybe.
Now, I am seeing some rumors flying around on possibly updated Wi-Fi and internet packages. They have not been released yet. It is all speculation at this point. I know Disney does like to try to update things every once in a while.
Yeah.
So hopefully that will be on the horizon.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's the interesting thing will be what we get on the Wish.
Yeah.
And what that experience will be on the Wish, because it's a chance to come straight from dry dock. There's lots of new technology options that are out there these days.
Yep.
And we'll see how that goes.
Something else that people may not know about is you do not have to leave the ship at ports. If you don't want to go visit a port, you can stay on the ship. On our upcoming cruise, we have a day at Nassau, and we are not going to be leaving the ship for that day.
Nope.
We are just going to explore the ship, and there's always activities to do on those port days. There's plenty of stuff where you can just go to trivias or whatever, bingo, who knows? There's lots of other stuff available.
Sit out on the deck and read a book.
Yeah, watch Funnel Vision all day.
Yeah.
One of the movie theaters happens to be a big, huge screen on the funnel on the top deck.
Indeed.
Yep. One thing to note during port days or whenever the ship is in a port, the shops on board are not open. All the shops are closed in port. That includes when you are embarking or disembarking.
Right. So if you have that one last minute thing that you wanted to get Aunt Joan at home, and you needed to get the Christmas tree ornament to remember your cruise, you better get that before the last night on your trip or on the last night of your trip. Because if you want to get up early and go to the shop in the morning and get that on your way out the door off the ship, that shop will be closed.
Yes. Speaking of shopping, I would recommend if you see something when you're on the ship in one of the shops that you're interested in, get it right away.
Yes.
Do not wait. Things will sell out. We have had this happen on a couple of trips.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, I'll just show up. I'll come by a little later when it's not as busy. No, don't do that.
Nope.
We've lost out on a couple of pins that we wanted, things like that, because they sold out.
Yep.
When you're in the stateroom, there are a couple things that you can watch on the television while you're there. There's the nighttime shows are available. So if there's a night where you just, I don't know, you're not feeling well, have a little bit of headache or something, or one of your kids just is tired, and you aren't able to go to the show in person, you can actually watch it on the television in your stateroom. They do show those at the same time the regular shows are going on.
Mm-hmm.
When you hear the When You Wish Upon a Star chime that precedes an announcement, you cannot hear those in your stateroom. You will either have to open the door and listen in the hallway or turn on the television. I believe I don't know what channel it's on, but one of the main channels has all the announcements. It'll be on that as well.
You'll hear the tones in your room
You'll hear
softly.
the tones,
They don't play it very loud because they don't want to wake people up, especially little kiddos, which is why they don't do the announcements in your room.
Yeah.
But if you do hear those tones, really the quickest thing to do is just pop your door open, your stateroom door open to the hall, and you can hear them that way, because it usually takes a little bit too long for the TV to turn on, and it'll automatically tune to that. I think it's channel 2 or whatever it is that has those announcements going. But you're probably going to miss the first part of it. Yeah. Just pop your door open.
Yeah.
And if you want to know what those tones sound like, just hit rewind and start this podcast all over again.
Yeah.
Because that's what it sounds like.
It's out there, yes.
I mean, it doesn't have the hip hop funk beat behind it, but yeah, you get the tones.
Yeah. There's also a morning show each ship does that they show on the television. It's usually the cruise director and a couple other people, and they'll have like a trivia of the day. We've never really been up early enough to watch it. I don't remember what time. I think it's at 8:00.
Something.
Or 7:00.
It's
I don't
before
know.
We're usually awake.
Yeah. We've seen a couple of them, and they're really fun. So if you are an earlier riser, I recommend watching the morning show.
Yeah. It's also where you can get your weather report for the day.
Yes. Weather report for the day. Yeah.
It's hot.
Yes. Couple other things that we found that are good to know is no extension cords or power strips are allowed.
Right.
They will confiscate those out of your suitcases. You are not allowed to bring those on board. If you need to have one, you can go to guest services and ask for one. They are first come, first served. So once they're out, they're out.
Right.
You can bring USB extensions. What would you call those? Like a USB hub?
Yeah, like a USB charger brick.
Yeah, those are okay. But if it has
if it has more than one AC plug, well, if it has an AC outlet on it, yeah, that's verboten.
Yep, they will not let you have those.
Yep. And that's a safety rule. That's a liability thing with being at sea.
Mm-hmm. Something that's also helpful is getting some sort of motion light or small battery light for the bathroom.
Yes.
Because if you have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the restroom, oh my gosh, those lights are so bright.
Yeah, they are.
So the past couple of times we've just had like a really simple battery operated push button light for the restrooms.
Yeah. And we've seen a number of folks and some friends who, I know you've seen them on like as seen in TV ads or elsewhere. You can get them on Amazon. Basically, there's these little motion lights that clip onto the side of your toilet. Yep. Like those will work as well. Like highly recommended to just have some subtle light that you can have in the restroom. Again, because in the middle of the night, yeah. Well, the biggest problem is not only are those lights bright, but the light switches on the outside of the bathroom. Yeah. So you have to
light.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
No. Let's see. Sometimes the pools get closed down.
Yes.
And it's not just for 2319. It can get very choppy, I guess. Yeah. The ship can rock, and it can be dangerous for people to still be in the pool if it's turbulent at all.
Right.
So they will shut the pools down.
Right. Same thing with the decks. There are sometimes, especially like deck 4, which is kind of the main level promenade, if you will, around the ship, kind of underneath the lifeboats. They will sometimes depending on the sea state, we'll close that deck completely. Sometimes you'll see it closed on one side of the ship and not the other. We had that on our last cruise where we had a good 4 or 5 hours where we had like a 60 knot wind coming from like one side of the ship, and they had to close the door. They roped off the doors on that side of the ship. So, you weren't like having a hurricane whip through the lobby.
It was super windy.
Yeah.
We should also talk about Kids Club real quick on what to expect. Basically, if you want, you can drop your child off in the morning and not pick them up until late at night.
Yep.
They will feed your kiddos.
Yes.
If your kiddo wants to stay, they don't have to.
Right.
It's up to them, and they will let you know if your child wants to be picked up. They'll let you know.
Right. They'll page you, or send you a text note, or how There's lots of different ways to get a hold of you on the ship. There, they will find you.
Yes.
If your kiddo says no, I'm done, I want to go, and you can say, when you check them in, you could say, hey, I have a Apollo reservation right now. Unless he's bleeding, please do your best to, keep little Billy with you so I can actually have dinner. But,
And they do have Kids Club at Castaway as well. So if you are on Disney's Island, you can check your child into the Kids Club there, and they can stay there while you go off to the adults only area or whatever, just chill.
Right.
They will make sure your child has food and what they need.
Absolutely.
There are always things that we are learning, and I know there's tons of stuff that we don't know about yet. And we'll just have to keep going on more cruises to figure out all this stuff that we don't know yet.
Yep. I mean, I just learned about the sommelier bin.
Yes.
So yeah. So if you need to do what I'm doing, which is try to catch up with your wife and make it to Platinum on Disney Cruise Line, we really recommend working with a travel agent. They can help you out through all of these tips and tricks, get you into the right places at the right times with the right things getting signed up for. They can go on hold with you for DCL to add bus transportation before and after your cruise. You don't have to sit on hold for 3 hours waiting for them to do that. Travel agents are amazing, and they can really help out. And I bet you they've got some stuff on their list of tips and tricks that we haven't shared with you today.
If you have any questions or suggestions, please send us an email to podcast@adventuresandmousecapades.com, and feel free to follow us on any of the social media applications at Our Mousecapades. Take a second, please rate and review us in your podcast app so we can help people find us.
Have a fantastic cruise, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for flying Star Tours. Bye-bye.